we will start with the public hearing on the real estate tax agreement ordinance for Wall Street. Mr. Callahan, can you?
Everybody pass you that?
Start with Kevin Daly. Oh, wait, just before we begin, oh, no, you can stand, you'll speak, I just wanted to say a couple things. So speakers have 3 minutes to speak. When you have 30 seconds left, at 2 minutes and 30 seconds, I'll lift this up so you can start wrapping up. Okay, and when you get up, please just state your name and your address for the record, okay?
You ready?
Yep. Sorry about that.
My name is Kevin Daly, and 31 Park Hill Avenue. I'd like this to be read into the record. This is an ordinance looking for a purpose. It is so poorly concocted that the very people it is designed to help, large developers, don't like it. But more importantly, where is the feasibility study that shows the Wall West area to be in need of tax incentives to develop? Answer, there is none. I looked through all the current plans listed on Norwalk Tomorrow, but could not find one. FYI, the CERC study is not a tax incentive feasibility study. The feasibility study is the most important analytical document that should have been done to support this ordinance. Therefore, ordinance committee members, why are you voting on this? You don't have anywhere enough information or experience to make a qualified and well-educated decision. Please don't take this as an insult. To understand the far-reaching impact of the ordinance, you either need a decade or more of commercial real estate industry knowledge or some very good analytical work done and reported clearly. Then have ample time to review it and ask questions. Since this will affect every Norwalk taxpayer, do not take this lightly. As proposed, the ordinance is premature, unfair, and lopsided. Consider the following points. This ordinance will encourage the assemblage of smaller properties for demolitions. That process has historically taken years. This ordinance will result in wholesale loss of small business. This program is cumbersome and slow, but issues which add risk and cost to a developer, which is why they don't like it. The incentives can only be given to businesses that meet the criteria of the approved market feasibility study, not to be confused with the non-existent tax incentive feasibility study. What happens when the market changes or evolves? Since the new zoning ordinances are not yet in place, the public has not weighed in on the same. Don't you think voting for this ordinance, which relies on an as yet to be enacted zoning ordinance, is a bit premature? This tax incentive is only good for new purchases. In other words, if you were here before January 1st, 2019, if you stuck it out through the hard times, sorry, nothing for you. Who pays the municipal impact study? More importantly, who does the study? In light of the NRA's recent problems with their selected advisors, light deterioration, can we rely on these studies, particularly if you don't know what you should be looking for? Please vote no on this ordinance. It's not good for the plan area, it's not good for Norwalk. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Would you like to submit that
Yes, please.
right there, this gentleman right there?
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Mike McGuire?
Michael McGuire, 64 Wall Street. The area is doing fine. How much you pay for rent should not be a sole determinant. Oh, and I would like this to be read into the minutes. Okay. So the area is doing fine, and how much rent you pay should not be the sole determinant of an area's vitality. The rents may not support new development at this time, but that is the case for most of Norwalk. Consider that the planned area office market outperforms the broader Norwalk office market by far when it comes to occupancy metrics. More importantly, the planned area caters to small business sector. In fact, this area is the heart and soul of small business in Fairfield County. However, if you allow this ordinance to go through, the result is a distorted marketplace where only true players are the big boys. With incentives come the disturbing ability for a preferred developer to acquire property at a higher price than the normal market forces allow. This skews the market and creates limitations and bottlenecks that other property owners hold out for ever higher incentive-juice pricing. Now, this does not happen overnight. This is a decades-long process, which ultimately stifles growth, stagnates the local market, and creates pockets of blight, all the while small business owners, small investors, and the local residents are driven out. Think not, think Sono. This is a 6-decade-long process that is still in the works. So why the small guy is driven out? 3 reasons. 1, new developments result in the loss of smaller, lower-cost buildings. 2, when completed, the new developments require much higher rents, which price out the little guy and small businesses. 3, existing property owners don't maintain their properties as they believe the big developer will come in and scoop their property up, so they don't maintain the property. Blight results. This all happens under the guise of creating a vital, vibrant downtown that is innovative, et cetera, et cetera. But here's the rub in the planned area. We already have a vital, vibrant downtown emerging after nearly 2 decades of neglect by the Norwalk Redevelopment Agency. To quote CERC's January 2019 market feasibility study, the Wall Street West Avenue neighborhood has experienced a recent surge of real estate growth with over 1,000 new apartments, 78,000 square feet of commercial space added since 2010, an additional 780 residential units and 63,000 square feet of commercial space will be added, so on and so forth. But this is all done without the Norwalk Redevelopment Agency or having this ordinance. It's really pretty remarkable. So but what the CERC study does not clearly state is the renovation and rehabilitation work done on the vast majority of properties in the area. From the smallest 2-family to the Wall Street Theater, virtually every property has been upgraded in some way, shape, or form since 2000. This is why we have such a problem with the NRA's blight deterioration, mischaracterization of the area. So if you want to maintain a vital the ongoing revitalization of this area according to the plan goals, then vote no in this ordinance. A no vote recognizes the revitalization that has been happening here this past decade, protects the historic nature of the downtown, protects the small business sector which is essential for innovation, and protects affordability, thus achieving stated goals much faster than this ordinance would allow. How do you do on time?
3:05.
Awesome.
Thank you.
You're doing great. 4.
Thank you.
Stop watching the mirror.
Yeah, that's right.
Thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
Katya?
Hello, I'm Katya Garcon, and I'm actually one of new business owners in town. I'm part of the crowd that is in their mid-30s, excited to be part of this new Norwalk, and I'm at 12 Main Street. Please read this into the minutes. I think it's so terribly sad how I've just invested all this money in this beautiful area, and this city is not doing the same into me, because there's not beautiful trees that are not right in front of Wall Street, Main Street. Garbage is left outside, and it's disgusting. My clients who are coming in are seeing this. Why is it not being cleaned up? That's not nice. I see Sono, I see all these beautiful things. I don't know why there's not garbage cans right there for people to just throw the garbage. It doesn't make sense. I'm investing, but you gotta invest in me as well. But I don't think the area is blighted. In summary, over the past decade or so, following the positive changes have happened in the plan area, largely on grassroots base, by a host of small business owners like myself and small property owners, along with a couple of larger investors, property owners. Nearly every property has been renovated or upgraded. There is no blight or deterioration, except as noted by the city's blight officers. The office market in the planned areas is outperforming Norwalk, Stamford, and Fairfield County office markets based on occupancy rates. This neighborhood is the heart and soul of small businesses in Fairfield County. As noted by CERC, innovative companies are locating here as noted by CERC. Over 1,000 new apartment units have been built, with further 788 to come. The retail market here is stronger than expected, particularly with small retailers where it is on par with other areas of Norwalk. We have a strong neighborhood association marketing a lot positive things happening. Income in the planned area, Census Tract 437, and Census Tract 437 median household incomes have risen 45% in the past 12 years. 8, this area should no longer be classified as economically depressed. Based upon all that you have heard here tonight regarding this pending ordinance, we hope that you will see, as we do, that this ordinance is not required at this time. As such, we formally request that you table this action until solid proof is presented by qualified independent professionals that this area should truly benefit from this level of intervention. Thank you.
Thank you. Adolph?
I'm Adolph Niederland, Silver Mine, Green Hill Road. I think we're going about this ass backwards. You don't put the cart in front of the horse. This proposal is a tool toward a goal, but the goals have not been set. So what we're doing is creating an environment where the goals are going to follow the tools, and that's wrong. I ran a very successful business in town, an engineering business, a product development business. We didn't start with what we have as a tool. We started with what we wanted to do, and then decided what tools were available and what tools we had to develop. So I think this should be tabled until POCD is completed. Then that sets the goals. Then you decide what tools you need, and if tax abatement or some form of tax reduction is required, that's a tool, one of many tools. But you can't build a house on one tool, tax abatement. It won't work.
Thank you. Wait, would you like to include your comments into the record? Did you want to include the comments?
Did you want to
that
submit them into the record?
Oh,
Yeah.
Thank you. Larry?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Larry Allen, and I'm at 40 Wall Street, and we've been at 40 Wall Street since 1995. I'm a small business owner. We own a hair salon, Universal Hair Salon, which was started by my mom and her partner, who recently passed away 4 years ago. So I've watched Wall Street go from like the dust, cobwebs, the weeds rolling up the street when everything was boarded up. Stores was empty. It was a dead zone. But Kitty Town was there. The Five and Dime was there. Pathmark was still open. There was business for the small businesses, you know. So I'm all for a development and growth because it looks good being born and raised here in Norwalk, and just to see it and to live through it. But my question to the board is, you know, where do we fit in when all this is happening in the end? You know, how are we going to survive with all these changes? I mean, with the tax changes, I mean, we're a small business. You know, we feed our families and we employ a lot of people who feed their families. And just within Wall Street, it's like a small district of just salons and barbershops as well as mine. And even though you would look at it as competitors and competition, everyone gets along there and everybody eats and make money. And my thing is, there's a baby born every day, so there's always going to be a new customer to follow. If you lose one, they're busy, they're gonna come back. So it's never been like an issue or a situation over there. So again, like, you know, I'm just concerned about, because I've watched with the redevelopment from downtown all the way up to where we are now, it's alarming because a lot of the small businesses like gas stations and other like diners and stores, they're gone. They couldn't afford the rents, they pack up and they're gone. So that's my concern for me, my family, and the other small businesses, is that when this is at its peak of the awe, where are we going to be? Are they still going to be able to get a haircut in my store? We've renovated the place. We're still renovating the place. We put a new face on it because the face before we bought it 4 years ago was horrible. So we started there, and now we're working on the inside. So I don't want to have invested the money that I've worked over the years to save and make and invest into something that was a dream become like what happened, basically, you know? So that's pretty much it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Allen. Nancy?
Hi, how are you guys tonight?
Hello.
My name is Nancy McGuire, building owner, business owner, and taxpayer on Wall Street in Norwalk, Connecticut. Please read this statement into the record. I am here to speak on behalf of the Wall Street neighborhood. The RDA plan that you have in front of you this evening is really redundant when comparing their goals to what is already happening in downtown Norwalk. The plan is to encourage new development. We have new development in the form of more than 1,800 proposed and already built brand new residential units, a restored Wall Street theater, a new regional high-end retail mall just a mile away, a vibrant and growing restaurant scene, new retailers, artists, design-oriented businesses moving into the neighborhood. Small businesses are thriving on Wall Street despite the blighted POCO development. Larry Allen, Moore's family owns the building at 40 Wall Street. They run a family barbershop there and are currently completing the fit out to create a new shop next door to their open store. They will not be able to take advantage of these tax breaks that you plan to develop to offer to developers. Katia Gasson is a jewelry designer on Wall Street with Personal Stylist Boutique. She took this space a few years ago right above her mother's hat and accessory salon. She plans to even offer designer styling for men and hopes to expand her shop more in the area. There are simply too many designers, musicians, retailers, restaurant business owners to mention in the 3 minutes that I was allowed for me to speak here today. But you should all come down. Everyone should come down this weekend and see for yourself. And don't forget to sign up for the Neighborhood Association's newsletter. The restaurant owners are planning a restaurant week. The media producers are planning a film festival. The designers are planning a Christmas boutique market. But all this energy will come to a halt if we cannot continue to attract retailers because property owners are holding their units vacant to wait for the city tax candy to be doled out by the redevelopment agency. You guys often use Stamford as a redevelopment success story to follow. But even Stamford has left its downtown core along Bedford Street relatively untouched, with 2 and 3-story historic buildings lining a lovely street with indigenous trees, landscaping, angled parking meters, and attractive antique lightings with electrical outlets to light up the trees for more than 3 months a year. On Wall Street, we're not against more intense development. We will thrive as more people live within walking distance to our shops and restaurants, but we don't support that development through an unnatural assemblages that take decades to complete while building owners leave their spaces vacant and wait for the only buyer in town to choose their property, only to be redeveloped with fortress-style apartments with 2,000 square feet to 10,000 square feet, high-end, big-box, white retail spaces that can only be afforded and filled by national retailers. We encourage you, a Wall Street Neighborhood Association, to vote no on the RDA plan. Respectively submitted, Nancy.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Former Mayor Bill Collins.
I found I really didn't need the noise ordinance that's attached to the back of the agenda here, so you can have that one back.
Oh, thanks.
I think there's a technical term for an ordinance like this in the development business, and the term is boondoggle. I think this ordinance somehow sprang full-grown from the head of the developers. It proposes to give a very generous tax write-off. We understand it's a little complicated, but we know how it goes. But in the end, you get a tax write-off if you're building a big project. And what does this persuade developers to do? Build apartment houses. But I think we've seen so far, Wall Street as well as South Norwalk, that they want to build apartment houses anyway. So it's like a gift. We're paying them to do what they're already going to do. This seems to me like a mistake. And despite the good work of Councilman Livingston to make it much more credible and to put protections for the city into the ordinance, the principle still remains the same. And he did such a good job, I guess the biggest developer doesn't want to use this anymore. We'll see. If it passes, I'll believe that when I see it. But it's the principle that's wrong. Tom has fixed up a great deal of the details, but there is no need to pay developers to build apartment houses. I notice that's still in the ordinance. Residential is okay and will qualify as long as it has mixed use. Well, we've seen what mixed use is. It's a branch bank downstairs maybe, or a gym, or maybe Mr. Milligan's dental office he's trying to get onto Wall Street will qualify. This is not what Uptown needs. It's not what any place in Norwalk needs. Certainly not worth subsidizing. And this is a gigantic subsidy to developers to do what they're going to do anyway. There is a great deal that needs to be done in Norwalk, or as I call it, no-no uptown. Just as there is a lot that still needs to be done in Sono to make Norwalk more hospitable. There's a lot of infrastructure that needs work. There's a lot of gardening that needs to be put in. Trees are a good start. Benches, murals. I can take somebody on a tour to show a lot of the things that need to be done. And God bless the parking authority, because on their own hook, without the redevelopment agency, without the council, without anybody, they're going to put, and they had to beat down the Public Works Department in order to get this, they're going to have some diagonal parking. I mean, these are the kinds of things that Norwalk really needs to attract the small businessmen, the big developers, everybody. We've got to make the town more exciting, more hospitable, and more appealing to investors and to residents. This is not the way to go. So I hope you'll kill this and let us start over again. There's money to do it. There's a lot of money waiting in the budget to do this in the capital budget. Thank you.
Do you have anything to submit, or?
No, I always make it up as I go along.
Respect. Todd?
Good evening, I'm Todd Bryant, 23 Morgan Avenue. I'm the president of the Norwalk Preservation Trust, and I am speaking for them tonight. The thing that of course concerns us the most is the historic buildings in the Wall Street historic district. And I know that we, again, Mr. Livingston is proposing to make some changes that would protect those buildings, which I believe is it's a great thing for the buildings, it's a great thing for Wall Street. But listening to everybody else, where are those small businesses that really create the life of the city going? They're going into historic buildings. Two reasons. One, they're historic buildings and they're really great looking, and two, the rents are low. And there is no way to overemphasize the ability of low rents to create a vibrant downtown. You can see it everywhere. I spent the last weekend along with some friends in Hudson, New York. Has anybody been to Hudson? Mm-hmm. Hudson, 40 years ago in Hudson, which is when I first knew it, it was boarded up, down and out. It was a scary place, and I lived in a commune. It was still a scary place. It is Brooklyn North now. It is a gorgeous place. All the historic buildings have been retained. That was preservation by neglect as opposed to demolition by neglect. The Main Street, the entire length of Main Street is nothing but small businesses. just, this was February, right? The bars were jammed. It was hard to get I mean, it was amazing. So that's really where this should be going. I'm agreeing with everybody here. And it's all about small businesses, and I encourage everyone to come to the Connecticut Main Street Center's Adaptive Reuse Summit on March 1st at the Wall Street Theater, because those are the people in the state of Connecticut who really push for this very thing. And it's a day-long seminar with nationally known speakers and panels in the afternoon with some local participants. And it really speaks to how you can build a downtown. And despite the new protections for historic buildings, if they go in, that's a small part of it. If they're facing 5-story behemoths across the street, they might, it's the shadow effect. So I encourage you to protect the buildings and to incentivize small businesses, because that's what downtowns are really all about. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I have nothing to give you in it because I make it up too.
I have Jason Milligan next, but I don't see him. We already submitted his comments.
He asked me to read his comments into the record.
We were given his comments by someone else, so we already have them in the record.
All right, he asked me to read them into the record, and I did sign up for him. He did ask me to do this. He's out of town.
But you're signed up already.
I'm speaking for CNNA when I speak.
And we don't speak for different people here, which is why we submitted his comments already to the record. We have a gentleman right over there gave us his comments to submit to the record.
Okay, so someone did submit the
Yeah,
letter
they're
from
right.
Candace Fay, and
They're
it's going
right.
to, and it's going to be recorded into the minutes?
Yeah, everything that's given will be recorded. We already had the letter
Okay.
to begin with, but
Madam Chair, and it doesn't give the benefit to the audience of having heard what was submitted, and the only opportunity will be long after even potentially a vote, I dare say, that will appear in minutes. So I'd ask you to indulge. If it's not Ms. Murnier-Topless, maybe someone else in the audience would be willing,
there's not stable.
so that we can have the benefit of hearing it.
I agree with Ms. Sissy.
I think there should be a place for people who can't attend meetings to designate someone else to read on their
I'll
behalf.
allow it, but it has to be within the 3 minutes. We already have the writing, so
I
if
will
it's
do
more
my
than-
best.
Okay.
Dear members of the Ordinance Committee, this is a letter from Candace Fay on behalf of 6 businesses, one of which is Milligan Real Estate. As set forth below, we urge you not to vote on this matter at this time and to require further substantiation from the Common Council. Section 99-2 sets forth the objective of the ordinance and specifically sets forth in subsection B to improve the plan area's physical condition, which is recognized by the City of Norwalk as blighted and substandard. Section 99-4 sets forth the definitions of the ordinance. Section 99-4M defines the plan area as the Wall Street West Avenue neighborhood plan area as set forth in the plan area map approved by the Common Council. Close quote. As of today's date, there has been no determination by the City of Norwalk of blight. Further, there is no plan area map that has been approved by the Common Council. Section 99-6F sets forth the eligibility criteria for the proposed ordinance. It states that the proposed real estate investment must be consistent with the provisions of Connecticut General Statutes 12-65B and 12-65H, the City of Norwalk Plan of Conservation and Development, and the Wall Street West Avenue Neighborhood Plan, as each of the same may be amended from time to time, close quote. Here you are being asked to either rely on an expired plan of conservation and development from 2008 or a proposed draft of a plan that has not yet been adopted and a non-existent, yet to be established Wall Street West Avenue neighborhood plan. Accordingly, your committee is approving what appears to be an extremely hypothetical tax agreement with no objective other than to satisfy the members of the Common Council who have requested such tax agreement. It certainly does not benefit the taxpayers of the City of Norwalk to dole out or plan to dole out tax incentives to a district that does not exist. We have serious concerns about the validity of the findings of the Wall Street West Avenue Neighborhood Plan as amended on February 6, 2019. It is incredibly unusual to designate a vibrant area like Wall Street, where property owners are engaged in actively and cooperatively making improvements to their own property, as a depreciated area. Blight findings must be supported by tangible proof that can be scrutinized in a meaningful way. Blight findings require facts, and the most recent report simply does not meet this standard. Notably, the study was updated by a consulting firm other than the original consulting firm, and in a desperate attempt to obtain a blight designation, it relies solely on the depreciation of the area, noting that this depreciation is sufficient to establish the conditions of a deteriorating area. See Wall Street West Avenue Neighborhood Plan Appendix A. This is clearly not within the confines of the law, which allows a finding of a deteriorated area when at least 20% of the buildings contain, quote, inadequate public utilities or community facilities that contribute to unsatisfactory living conditions or economic decline. That's from Connecticut General Statutes 8-125-7L. Depreciation of real property is a concept mainly utilized for tax purposes and not to determine economic decline for purposes of establishing blight. After all, the City of Newark's own tax assessor records reveal an overall increase in property values between 2013 and 2018. Thus, there is no economic decline, and the Common Council and the Redevelopment Agency is unable to make the findings that are required by law.
Is that the last page?
It's got a couple more paragraphs.
Okay, we're already at 3:30.
I mean, I can stop.
Yeah, we have the rest of the comments, but I think for.
Are we
if-
satisfied?
But here again, we don't.
The gist of it. I mean,
Here again, the public doesn't though.
second.
I mean,
Well-
we're all here.
Okay, just finish the last paragraph.
Because
I mean,
we really do want to hear people speak.
Historically, the City
I
of
know
Norwalk
that's
has
inconvenient to you,
loosely
obviously.
and inappropriately utilized the term blight to accomplish its ever-evolving objectives. It is wrong, and it will no longer be tolerated. Notably, the definition of blight includes the role of the community, which has been entirely ignored in this current iteration of the Wall Street West Avenue Neighborhood Plan. These active, engaged, and invested property owners who have noted their objection and appeared for public comment have been ignored. Here you have simultaneous redevelopment of the entire neighborhood. There is no rational explanation to disrupt the significant benefits that the City of Norwalk will receive from these improvements that are currently occurring. The Common Council has asked you to create an ordinance that it may use in an area that may be designated. As set forth above, this ordinance is not ripe to go to a vote to your committee until such an area has actually been defined by the Common Council. We believe that it is unlikely that the Common Council will actually get to designate this area as blighted and issue a new redevelopment plan for Wall Street. Thus, we urge you to delay your consideration of the ordinance until and unless such an area is actually designated by the Common Council.
thank you. Thank you. Do you have your?
I do, and mine is only 2 minutes.
Okay,
so-
we already, but you can keep Jason's because we have one, so that's.
Okay.
That's good.
All right.
Um,
Donna Smirniotopoulos, 18 Shorefront Park. For the record, I am speaking on behalf of the Coalition of Norwalk Neighborhood Associations. Dear Committee Chair Melendez and other committee members, the Coalition of Norwalk Neighborhood Associations has reviewed the proposed real estate tax agreement ordinance for Wall Street West Avenue Neighborhood Plan area. We cannot support this ordinance as it is written. In brief, this ordinance is inconsistent with the best interests of our constituent associations and their members for the following reasons. The proposed ordinance makes taxpayer funds available to incentivize high-density, multi-story residential development. At POCD workshops across the city, our members consistently opposed escalation of high-density residential development of the kind that you heard others speak about, which is fortress-type apartments, mixed use with a gym or a cafe on the ground floor. Such developments have not shown themselves to enhance quality of life for Norwalk residents or provide economic stimulus sufficient to grow the grand list and reduce property taxes on residential homeowners. Number two, the ordinance does not require return on investment projections from apartment developers and other applicants. Our taxpaying members cannot afford to subsidize projects and developments that aren't guaranteed to contribute to positive grand list growth. Return on investment projections must include an accounting of taxpayer infrastructure costs with developments. 3, the ordinance empowers the Common Council to pick winners and losers, creating the potential for conflicts of interest and awarding tax abatements to preferred developers at the expense of others. 4, market forces will drive residential development without taxpayer-funded incentives. The density needs of the central business district do not require tax incentives that we pay for. Number 5, the 2018 Plan of Conservation and Development is the primary governing document for all city planning. All other plans and related ordinances must conform to the POCD. Until the POCD is complete, no other plan and related ordinance may be deemed consistent with the POCD. A vote to approve is premature. The proposed ordinance should be revised to address the concerns outlined above. Further, in order to ensure consistency with the 2018 POCD, the Ordinance Committee should table consideration of this ordinance until the revised 2018 Plan of Conservation and Development is approved. I would also like to add that you voted to hold this hearing on January the 15th. You posted the legal notice on the 8th. I, with very great difficulty, was not able to find it. I finally was sent the text by Diane Cece. Doug Hempstead told me that it was posted. There's no reason to make it that hard to find out that this is going on. Absolutely no reason. I think you do a disservice to the people of Norwalk when you do that. Many of our constituent associations did not have the time to take this back to their boards to deliberate. We did have constituent associations sign on to this. Friends of Quintard, East Norwalk Neighborhood Association, Nash, Wall Street Neighborhood Association, right? You guys are on board with this, and Golden Hill Association. The other associations said, we don't have time. Why didn't they have time? Because you didn't give us the time. Thank you.
Can I get a little bit of clarification on that? You couldn't find, it was posted in the hour, but you couldn't find it?
I did a Google search, and I searched, I spent about an hour looking for it.
I sympathize with you. I mean, these issues are charter issues. They have to be posted at a certain time, and we complied with that, but it's not the most, up to date way to let the public know, but with the help of the Hour and Nancy on Norwalk, it's been reported that these meetings are being held, and it's been in the minutes on the website. As soon as we have our meetings, they get there as soon as the staff in the law department can do it.
So how much work should the average person have to do to figure out what's going on?
It's norwalkct.org, agendas.
No, I'm just
ordinance
asking a
committee.
question, how much work? Because I put hours into figuring out what was going on. And I sent you multiple emails, and you did not respond to any of them.
The same text that was in the Hour is easily accessible on the city website.
Did you reply to any of my emails?
I did not.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Next is Bill.
Greetings. Thanks
Hello,
everyone
Bill.
for showing up.
Nice to see you.
Bill Nightingale. So I was here, we had this kind of similar meeting in August, I think, right? Where we talked about the Innovation
September.
District? September, okay.
The public hearing was in September.
Yeah, I spoke at that hearing. I mentioned at that hearing how I had spoken at the Common Council meetings back when the enterprise zone was being approved, and discussing my opposition to that. I'm very opposed to tax incentives to developers. I think development, the goal should be to create property values that pay more property taxes to relieve tax burdens on homeowners in town, rather than tap into homeowners to pay for the development. So I think that's the first, big picture thing we want to get right. And but I made the point in September that we should kill this, because I think any tax incentives, once you give one tax incentive to one guy, that guy next door is going to be coming and asking for a tax incentive to be, crying, this isn't fair, I need one too. Tim Sheehan made the argument in this article that was on Nancy on Norwalk today that this is all to give the similar tax incentives that were given to the enterprise zone to the area north of the highway, which is just astonishing, because he is the guy that created what I think is a very flawed enterprise zone, which is for the mall, right? Now the mall has its tax deal. That enterprise zone should be abolished, because that has served its purpose. The mall's tax agreement has been worked out. Kill the enterprise zone. I hope that you, along with killing this, now you have a level playing field, no more tax incentives. only viable businesses are the ones that we should be trying to attract here. I totally agree with former Mayor Collins that these condo developers are gonna build this stuff whether you give them the money or not. And they're always good, if you do say, hey, oh, you know, it's only for the guys that are like 3% profit margin short and we wanna just get them over the finish line, they're all gonna come with that sob story to you. So I just really hope that what we should be focused on is a level playing field, get rid of all tax incentives, generate as much property tax as we can from the commercial sector, from new development. That's what we want to do. And it's just sort of amazing to me that like in August or September we had this, it was unanimous speakers against it. It's unanimous speakers against it tonight. And the redevelopment agency just keeps coming back and asking for the same thing over and over again. In all the years I've followed the redevelopment agency, it's the same story with them. You say no to them, they go back to the drawing board, they come up with some other plan, sneak it around you another way, and get them to fix POCO, take responsibility for it, hold them accountable for it. The people that were involved with that should be terminated from their jobs, and the redevelopment agency should be abolished. I hope that's the path we take. Thank you very much.
So that's the last name on the list, but I do know that people walked in. Mr. Bonifant, would you like to go first?
Sure, thanks.
I don't know if there's any.
No, I missed the sign-up sheet. I didn't want to
But I
disturb
saw
the
you.
meeting.
I saw you.
Good evening, Rich Bonifant, 17 Park Hill Avenue. And I think this is about the 5th time between public hearings and meetings and being on your agenda that I spoke on this, so I'm kind of running out of interesting things to say. But I agree with a lot was going on tonight here. Like you're doing tonight, ask the people how they feel about giving away tax breaks to new apartments. Ask them how they feel about paying their own high tax bill and somebody else's too, all right? All you're doing, and a lot of speakers alluded to this tonight, all you're doing is making it financially advantageous to throw people out of their existing businesses and knock it, and people have been hanging in there or thriving, and knock down everything and build, and encouraging the property owners to knock it all down, build 6-story apartments, and not pay taxes for whatever period that you've readjusted. Right? I don't know how many years you're going to get out of no paying taxes for apartments, but you know, here you go again. So if a business can't make it without a tax break, is that really the business you want to come into town? Okay. And please listen to the public. Nobody wants this. Just put it to rest. All right? And actually what's holding up some of the development is you dangling these carrots in front of these developers, and so they're already like withdrawing their building applications and their zoning applications, thinking that you're promising them a tax break coming up, just got to put up with some public hearings and we're going to give it to you. So, you know, please listen to the people. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who walked in after the sign-up sheet? Oh, wait, Mr. Bonifant, did you have any of those remarks?
No, I just scratched it out.
Oh, okay, cool.
I'm actually gonna sit because if that's okay,
Oh, of
and try to
course.
read some stuff off the phone here.
Yeah.
It's if my battery doesn't go dead. Diane Cece, 37 Olmsted Place, and also representing comments as well that are incorporated from the East Norwalk Neighborhood Association. And before you start the clock, I do just want to agree with Ms. Murnier-Topoulos that I think the city has a long way to go in terms of engaging the public. Legal notices in the hour, or even press releases that are issued on, you know, social media blogs just don't cut it. There has to be a mechanism where people might hear about this and go right to the city website, see there's a public hearing, and click on a link that brings them to not just the document, which is largely legalese a lot of times, but also maybe an executive summary that mere mortals can understand. And that would not be a burden on the city to do that, and I would, you know, employ the chairwoman to.
It's a good idea, but other than, you know, working with the press to get out the information, what would you suggest?
Just that, so that as a committee has something ready that they're prepared to go to public hearing, This may not be right, but my information is that you knew it at your January meeting, that you'd be posting for the legal notice for it. At that time, it could be posted on the city website prominently, not digging through agendas to try to find it, and then going through, in fact, the agenda doesn't even have it until you issue your minutes. And so it's
But the new
cumbersome.
agenda, yeah.
And other communities, I can tell you this before you start the clock, other communities, because we look at their websites in hope of helping the city to improve ours, when there are public hearings, they are noted prominently on the front page, either as a scroll or something where you can click month to month. And then the public
Sorry, the
hearing
front page
itself.
of the website?
Of their websites.
Okay.
And then you can click on that and get the relevant information for what the public hearing is about. And again, importantly, kind of an executive summary that regular people can understand. Here's why we're doing it, here's what it might help, and maybe some pros and cons. Then they can dig deeper if they want, but
Okay,
um,
thank you.
thanks for that. So I want to basically ditto everything that everyone said, and because I'm also speaking for the ENNA as well tonight, as we were trying to gather consensus for votes, we saw a lot of the organizations didn't have time to follow their own rules to be able to get their membership to consider this. It was just not enough time and to vote on it. But ENNA does support it. And what I wanted to do is share with you, I put together like a little compilation of comments and of observations and questions that came up as we were deliberating whether to support the statement that Ms. Murniartopoulos read to you. And I want to read a few of them and just to hold up the clock when it goes out. 99-1 paragraph 2, it talks about creating a developed environment that's conducive to attracting industries that are growing or mature and are attraction and retention priorities as determined by the approved market feasibility study. And that's a big sentence in itself. But the person who read through it, having read through it, it still was left curious as to what specific industries are targeted for Norwalk. And that there's various profile studies that are in your feasibility study, but none of the specific industries and companies. In paragraph 2, where you talk about incentivizing new private real estate investment, the comment there is that by incentivizing, stimulating, and encouraging private real estate development firms, the city is opening the door to a wide variety of firms, or will tend to limit the scope and target to one or two specific firms. They went on to actually name 2 specific developers here, and I won't do that because I don't know if that's the relationship that you have there. It goes on to mention long-term employment opportunities as a benefit, which is a carrot in front of the nose here in terms of voting. But are these things sustained with the rapid growth of residential growth of Norwalk? And if you do think they're sustainable, the question would be how. Let me just try to get through some of these. It mostly incentivizes multi-story dwellings that require some mixed use, but some 30 to 40% of residents in Norwalk are no longer homeowners. This presents a dangerous land use issue that we have here now. This person recently spoke at zoning to say that this was also in opposition to the development that's about to go in next door to the East Norwalk train station. And everyone agrees that all the projects must contribute to the grand list and have some fundamental return on investment, that people can understand what that is, that's measurable and that does get measured in the end, or what's the point? And the consensus also is that generally speaking, we hear market forces pick the winners and losers. We're supposed to have a free market economy here. And And another one was that they're not necessarily opposed to higher density development, because all consideration should be taken into all types, but that tax incentives are not necessary to encourage such development, and that the council itself should never be in the position of picking winners and losers in the marketplace. And then in mine, I can tell you this is mine, that this is really important to me, is that factors other than monetary incentives are what the city should be focusing on, because that's what drives growth. The primary focus should be in order to attract quality housing, businesses, and amenities that positively impact our grant list. Among the factors that would be considered outside of monetary should be health and safety, including low crime rates, quality education with high graduation rates and college alternative programs, pristine open spaces and parks for active and passive recreation, improved infrastructure, vigilant enforcement by agencies like police, zoning, building, health, and public works, aging in place initiatives, child care services, teen centers, and timely and reliable communication from the city. These are the factors that should be primary, and if they are, no monetary incentives really are necessary, because you're creating an environment where you'll have people, you know, desirable to come in, and you don't have to have these tax abatements that are not available to anybody else. In closing, the item should be tabled for additional public vetting, and since there's no time of the essence issue here, I don't think, I would suggest to you again that if you think this is a good ordinance tonight, you'll probably think it's a good ordinance a month or two when it gets more vetting and we see if it complies with the other plans that are not before you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just like to speak. Just your name and address for the record.
Oh, yes, I'm Mark Allen with Factory Underground Recording Studio. We are located at 16 Isaac Street, and I don't have any notes to enter into the record, so I'm just going to speak sort of in Bill Collins style. When my partner called me up to join his business in around 2004, you know, he made it sound really exciting. I got this great industrial space. I really want to build this studio. I said, where is it? He said, Norwalk, Connecticut. I was like, not going to happen. And the truth is, I lived here before. I lived here from 97 to 2001. And I remember what, you know, with all due respect, I remember what the Wall Street area was like back then. And there was nothing happening. And it took 6 times for him to ask me to come join the business, and I finally did. And then a funny thing happened. I fell in love. I fell in love with Norwalk. I fell in love with Wall Street especially. And we've been investing our money and our time in building this thriving business. We're a small business, but we're blessed by a very nice footprint, but we're a small business. Like I said, we've been building this business steady. The idea of building a recording studio in 2010, for anybody that knows what the music business is like, crazy idea, but we invested and we made it happen. And right now we're doing okay. We're holding our own. Same way that Larry Allen has held his own since '95. If you want to give a tax break to anybody in Norwalk, give it to the small business. Give it to the businesses who have been keeping Wall Street alive all of this time. That's really my message to you guys is consider that the developer who has the option, who wants to now finish POCO, has an option to buy the Garden Cinema, to turn that into parking for a mixed-use condominium. Is that really going to help Norwalk? Is that going to help Wall Street? I don't think so. I think you got to keep small business alive. Give us the tax breaks, if anybody. I mean, I agree we don't need tax breaks, but we certainly don't need it for, you know, developers. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who walked in later that would like to speak for the public hearing? No? Okay. We'll now close the public hearing at 7:55.